We all love a good adventure, right? But what happens when that thrill turns into a nightmare deep underground? Caving is exciting, dangerous, and downright terrifying when things go wrong. From narrow squeezes to rising floodwaters and deadly air, this compilation dives into some of the most horrifying caving disasters ever recorded. These are real stories, gripping, tragic, and unforgettable. So buckle up for a chilling descent into the worst nightmare disasters for cavers. 1. The Neil Moss Tragedy, Peak Cavern, England. Let's rewind to a cold March Sunday in 1959. 8 cavers gathered at Peak Cavern near Castleton in Derbyshire, England. Among them was 20-year-old Neil Moss, a philosophy student from Oxford, bubbling with curiosity and a deep love for exploration. Their mission? To explore a narrow shaft discovered weeks earlier in the beautifully decorated Moss Chamber. It was going to be tough, narrow, winding, and about 1,000 feet below the surface. But Neil was all in. Once past a tight, waterlogged stretch nicknamed the Mucky Duck, and through the boulder-strewn crawlways, they reached their destination. There it was, the mysterious shaft, barely wide enough for a person to fit through. It twisted downward, corkscrewed, sloped, then dropped. Neil volunteered to go in first. That decision changed everything. Without a safety rope, since the passage seemed too tight for a fall, Neil began descending a flexible ladder. He kept in contact with his team. Everything seemed fine, until it wasn't. Somewhere around 40 feet down, he hit a blockage, a boulder. When he tried to climb back up, it was already too late. His legs couldn't bend. His body was wedged, locked into a space just 18 inches wide. The ladder twisted and jammed between the rock and Neil's body. His teammates tried pulling him up, but nothing worked. Ropes snapped. Hope thinned. Then the air began to change. The shaft's tightness trapped Neil's own exhaled air. Toxic gas filled the chamber. Volunteers from all over England rushed to help. RAF officers, cavers, police, even the Navy. But as each person tried to descend to Neil, they were beaten back by the air. 3 passed out trying to reach him. Only one, Ron Peters, got far enough to attach a rope. But that only made Neil's breathing worse. By Tuesday, after more than 48 hours underground, the breathing stopped. Neil Moss had died, his final resting place sealed with rocks in what is now called Moss Chamber. 2nd, Gollum's Cave. A deadly urban legend becomes real. This one starts over dinner. 5 friends laughing and reminiscing until one of them, Jennifer Gilbraith, brings up a cave right next to the BYU campus, known only to the boldest students as Gollum's Cave. Jennifer had been there before. It almost killed her the first time. She passed out from hypothermia. But that didn't stop her from suggesting a return trip. It was late, 2 a.m., when they reached the cave. The entrance was small, wet, and already unsettling. Still, Jennifer led the charge. Blake, Scott, and Ariel followed. Only Joseph stayed behind, sensing something off. Inside, the tunnel was only 2 feet wide and 4 feet high. The group had one flashlight. One. With the help of a guiding rope tied from the entrance to a plank deeper inside, they started navigating the pitch-black, water-filled passage. The rope was their lifeline. That rope was everything. Inside the cave, the air was deadly, literally. Known as bad air, the low oxygen made it harder to think, breathe, and hold their breath underwater. Carbon dioxide hovered just above the water's surface, creating a silent, invisible killer. Jennifer went first to exit but lost her way in the darkness. The water was murky. The rope possibly missed. With oxygen levels dipping to just 10%, her body shut down. Ariel followed and felt Jennifer's lifeless body mid-tunnel. Panic exploded. The narrow hole couldn't fit 2 people. Ariel ran out of air. Then came Blake. Then Scott. Each one unknowingly followed the last into the same watery grave, their bodies piling inside the exit shaft. Only Joseph, who waited outside, survived. When no one came out, he called for help. By the time rescuers pumped out the water and brought in oxygen tanks, it was too late. 4 friends, all young, healthy, and full of life, gone. Their final moments trapped together in a darkness no one could prepare for. Third, the Crooked Swamp Cave, a scout trip that ended in tragedy. Donald was an experienced scout leader and a devoted father. He'd led kids through many cave adventures before, and the Crooked Swamp Cave was no different. Or so he thought. Alongside another scoutmaster and a group of 12 boys, including his own sons, Christopher and Roger, Donald led the way. The entrance was tiny, just 16 inches high and 28 inches wide, but once inside, it opened into a large chamber. Things were going well. Then Donald decided to explore a narrow side passage. It was a tight fit even for him, a 5'11", 160-pound adult, but he was confident. His sons followed close behind. What none of them expected was a sudden slip. Donald fell a few feet, but into a nightmare. The tunnel narrowed drastically, and he became stuck. Arms pinned, legs bent. No way out. His sons tried to pull him. Nothing worked. They fetched help. Rescuers came quickly and tried everything: ropes, pulling, digging. But Donald only became more wedged in. For over 70 hours he was trapped, cold, hungry, alone in a narrow, downward-angled fissure. Even when small rescuers like Nancy and Lynn Taylor tried reaching him from another cave system, they couldn't make contact. Finally, on the 3rd day, a doctor confirmed the worst. Donald had died from hypothermia and exposure. His death sent shockwaves through the scouting community. Access to Crooked Swamp Cave was permanently restricted. But for his sons and the boys who were there, it was a trauma they would never forget. 4th, Robert Kennedy. Hermit Cave Horror, Oklahoma. Robert Kennedy was 21, adventurous, athletic, and curious to the core. On a summer night in 1999, he camped near Hermit Cave with his stepbrother Richard and a friend. The next morning, fueled by legend and late-night stories, Robert couldn't resist the pull of an unexplored side passage in the cave. Even though they had only one flashlight, and even though going in with fewer than 3 people broke every rule, he went in alone. Inside, the passage quickly narrowed. He squeezed through a keyhole shape, then an hourglass compression. It sloped down at a 30-degree angle, tight, slippery, and unforgiving. At first, he tried to back out, but gravity worked against him. His body slid deeper, arms pinned, chest squeezed. One call for help was all he could manage. Richard heard his cries and tried to help, but without light or space, there was nothing he could do. He went for help. 10 rescuers worked tirelessly. They brought in warmed air, dug around the rock, and tried to widen the keyhole. One eventually reached his legs and felt a faint pulse, but they couldn't pull him out. His torso was too tightly compressed. After 5 grueling hours, they got him out. But Robert was already gone. The mixture of suffocation, compression, and oxygen deprivation made for a swift and silent death, proving once again that caving leaves no room for mistakes. 5. Ellison's Cave. Warm-up pit freezes, 2 lives. Ellison's Cave in Georgia is no joke. It's one of the deepest in the U.S. And on February 12, 2011, 10 University of Florida students went in for what they thought would be a fun exploration. Grant Lackenbach, their leader, was turning 21. With his friend Michael by his side, the group climbed toward the cave despite freezing weather. No cell phones, casual clothing. Everyone was excited. Things went south when one student's backpack fell into warm-up pit, a 125-foot vertical drop. Grant volunteered to retrieve it. He descended into the icy darkness. Water from a nearby waterfall drenched him. His rope malfunctioned. He became tangled, freezing, and helpless. Michael didn't hesitate. He strapped in and followed, trying to save his friend. But the same thing happened. The waterfall's freezing spray soaked him. They were both stuck, unable to move, shivering in the dark. The rest of the group was horrified. They called for help. Rescuers arrived and began the treacherous descent. But by the time they reached the two boys, it was too late. Hypothermia had claimed them both. They died entangled in a final, heartbreaking embrace, a haunting reminder of how fast cave conditions can turn lethal. 6. Mystery Creek Cave. One brave teacher, one fatal decision. Mark Healy was more than just an adventurer. He was a teacher who truly cared about inspiring young minds. When he led a school trip to Mystery Creek Cave in Tasmania, he believed he could keep everyone safe. They were warned. A passing caver said the cave was flooded due to rain, but Healy had faced rough conditions before. Confident, the group entered anyway. Inside was magical. Glowworms, crystalline walls, and the hush of water echoing through stone. But the deeper they went, the louder that water roared. The cave was flooding. Healy ordered a human chain, his trusted safety method, placing strong students at each end. It worked once. Then came the second crossing. A student slipped. Healy caught her. Another followed. Then the current pulled multiple people in, including a teacher. Chaos took over. Healy rushed to save the rest. He got most students out, then went back in to help the missing. Hours later, 3 bodies were found, swept away by the current. Months later, unable to bear the guilt, Healy ended his own life. He had done everything he could, but sometimes nature just doesn't care how experienced someone is. Caves are magical, mysterious, and beautiful, but they're also among the most dangerous places on Earth. Every one of these stories started with excitement, curiosity, adventure. But each one also reminds that nature plays by its own rules. And underground, there's no room for error. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and share this video to spread awareness. Stay safe, stay smart, and always respect the cave.